All right, here we are. Actually, this is a special edition of Ordinary Other Selected Files. Today, I'm actually the topic. I want to tell you guys more about myself and, why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I choose the people you guys see as guests on my show. And yeah, so let's get right into it. So, my whole life, I've always thought about, like, not the ordinary stuff. Like, I always thought, like, there's like a bigger picture to everything. Like, I don't know. I've always thought that certain stuff is so grand when they shouldn't. And I've always had this vision of just me, just being in a production field and just being very successful. Of course, since a kid, the dreams was very, very hyperbolic. But you know what? I've always had that run through my mind, and I'm like, man, like I wonder what it is and why is that feeling so strong. I've always been really tapped in to hip hop music since I could remember. It's been like something I did to make me fall asleep when I was young and crying. They'll just take me in the car and bump some music. It just so happened that it would either be my dad or my uncle. And like the music of choice was like really early on hip hop. I've always felt so attached to it, and you know, it was just been always part of the dream of mine. And so like as I got older, it came more and more like I would be on my own, but I would do the research. Like I'm like, oh, I want to know who's the new artist nowadays. I'm like in middle school. And I've always had the CD players with me, always had the iPods with me. It wasn't until like late high school I got my first iPhone, and then that's when I really started to like, okay. But I'm not gonna lie though, I was really a good kid because I was actually getting iTunes cards and just b- buying these actual songs. But later on down the road, of course, we knew how to torrent. But majority of the time, I was just so much into the process. You can say like I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know like how does it work when you purchase a song? Does it go to the artist? Oh, that always crossed my mind. So that that whole business and that whole like side of life has always been in my mind. So I take TV production in high school. I don't think too much, nothing of it. I'm like, oh, like wow, this is really cool. I mean, I would definitely do something like this. Of course, I would like to make a movie. Of course, I would like to work in the news. But the passion wasn't really there. It actually was. I didn't know where it was at. I just knew I liked it. Come graduation, I did 2 years of TV production. I didn't even get a certificate. So I graduate high school. Had a little bump in the road because of the the old standardized test called the reading FCAT. That just put a block where I couldn't sign up for college because I didn't have these passing test scores. But that's another story. So I eventually whatever passed the test, but during that time, I took a year off of school. I couldn't do nothing but either prep for that test. So during that time, I was working at a pizza place, and I was just so open, and that's when I started to venture out, and I've always just been so curious about things like going to concerts with Yamil and Jordan, and just being always in that type of environment just grew and grew and grew. So a couple years later go by, and I signed up for McFadder Technical College for TV production because I see that they promise you that career in a year, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool, but is it really real? So I just actually just said, screw it, let me just try it out. Let me see what's the worst that could happen. That program shifted the way I live, shifted the way I think. I've never been so inspired, but in such a small period of time. It took like the second day for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go full on. They taught me how to use control switchers, how to TD, how to be a camera engineer, how to work audios, lighting, all that, how to shoot and edit. So it was like all in one in a year, and that was coming so fast. And I was like, man, like I love it. I love the feeling of it. I loved working in live production always. That's where, like I said a couple minutes ago, where me, Emil, and Jordan will always go to these concert shows. So I'm like, man, I've always said it that I'm gonna wind up there. So, you know, working in the school, they gave me an opportunity to work in the Super Bowl. And I was like, wow, like this is actually real. Like I'm actually having these experiences. So the passion just only grew and grew and grew every day. There was not a day where I felt inspired. If I was having a bad day, I went there and it would change in the flip of a second. Literally, as soon as I pulled up to the parking lot. Yeah, it was a great time. So, I graduated from that and I noticed that the passion never left. I actually was really sad and I lingered on as long as possible. I would even I would even go back and help them with shoots that they needed. I would have been like, yeah, of course I'll stop by, you know? So the passion never left. And, I wound up doing music videos for, an artist named Escobar. And the passion, like I said, it just grew and grew. And I'm like, wow, like, like I'm really feeling like I really could go places in in this world. So, I've always had this idea of having a podcast since I signed up for the McFadder because, like I said, that was a very inspiring place. So I've always had this podcast idea in my head, and just to actually like sit down, know how everything works, have a list, have a plan, have my first couple guests booked. All of that played a big role because of the school of McFadder. And I just want to like once again I want to give them a big shout out. Shout out to Kurt Doster. He was my instructor. Really smart, intelligent guy. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in the places that I would be right now. You know. So with that being said, I constructed. I was like, okay, I'm finally ready. I had known of this studio because I had been part of a prior podcast called Renovated Thinking. Shout out to Dion, Ray, and Dia Drade. Sorry about that, bro. It's been a while. I miss y'all. I hope you guys are doing good. So I've always known about this spot, HGAB Studios. So, I was like, okay, perfect location. They got the equipment. All we need to bring is our cameras at the time. Now they got, a setup to where we have all three. So yeah, it felt good to have all that, production known. Like now it's literally just me and my best friend Yams, Yamil at Yamsville. Go follow him. So like we both have that like great knowledge. Like he has a amazing knowledge. So that's all we need. Is basically our brains. HGAB got the tools and the space for us. So we just decided to just take off. And now we're here. Just dropped episode 10, working on 11. So much more to come. Thank you guys so much for viewing. Thank you guys for interacting. Just thank you to the subscribers. Thank you for followers. We got so much more in store for you guys. Just stay tuned. Have a good one. Derry X301. That's always like